Yes guys, so let's start looking at problems regarding recognition of leases in the books of lessee by measuring an ROU asset together with a lease liability. ROU asset determination depends upon the measurement of lease liability. We have seen the formula. I'll revise the formulas once again when we start looking at the illustrations. Look at the question number 24 now. Initial measurement of lease liability. Entity L enters into a lease for 10 years with a single lease payment payable at the beginning of each year. The initial lease payment is 1 lakh and the lease payments will increase at the LIBOR rate each year. Guys, there is a variable lease payment which is increasing with the amount of LIBOR each year. Therefore, it can be considered as variable lease payments based on a particular index or a rate. At the date of commencement of the lease, the LIBOR rate is determined as 2%. Assuming that the interest rate implicit from lease is 5%, initially measure what is lease liability. Guys, like I told you, questions as we start, it becomes tougher for us to calculate, not the concept. The concept is very clear, but we are supposed to calculate again and again. A lot of calculations will go in, so that is the reason why it becomes a little more elaborate for us. But in essence, what he is talking about is very clear. He is saying there are certain lease rentals which are supposed to increase each year by the LIBOR rate, and the amount is paid at the beginning of each year. Be very careful that they are being paid at the beginning of each year. So the first 1 lakh which you are making a payment, that is on the date of commencement of lease. What is lease liability? Any amount paid after the commencement of lease up to the date of up to the end of the lease term should be considered as lease liability. So that means if 1 lakh is paid on the date of commencement of lease, that cannot be considered in the computation of lease liability. For me, the lease liability should start only after the year 1. So any amount paid at the beginning of year 2, year 3, so on should be included in lease liability. So let's write down first the lease liability. Then we will start computation by increasing this 1 lakh rupee by 2% every year and taking an interest rate implicit from lease at the rate of 5%. So let us start. Looking at question number 24. First, define your lease liability. Lease liability is equal to, what is it equal to? Present value of lease payments after commencement of lease until the end of lease term. This shall exclude payments made up to the date of commencement of lease. Up to the date of commencement of lease, whatever payment you made should be excluded in measuring lease liability. Discount rate applicable. Discount rate is equal to either your interest rate implicit from lease or the incremental borrowing rate. This is how we measure lease liability at the commencement or at the beginning of lease term. So now, apply it in the question. Since these rentals are paid at the beginning of lease term or paid at the beginning of each year, at the beginning of each year, first discount rate that you will apply is 1. Remember that. Otherwise, you can exclude that first amount as well. I don't mind even if you exclude that first amount. Rupee 1 lakh paid for year 1. At the commencement of lease, can be excluded for measurement of lease liability. Measurement of lease liability. Because it is paid at the commencement, I can exclude it because it is amount paid up until the date of commencement of lease. Or else, consider discount rate of 1. So let's take discount rate as 1 for the first amount of 1 lakh and determine the value of lease liability. Here, lease payments, discount rate or present value factors at 5%, and finally the discounted cash flow. Let's start first with the years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 years lease. 6, 7, 8, 9, and finally 10. Pick up the lease payments made. The lease payments are 1 lakh each year, which should increase by LIBOR rate each year. LIBOR rate is 2% at the commencement of lease, so consider it 1 lakh into 1.02. Next year, the amount shall be 1 lakh 2,000. That next year, the amount shall be 1 lakh 4,040. Then next year the amount shall be 1,06,121. And why this is not calculating? Back into 1 point. Some reason it's actually not taking it. Back 6,001. 1,08,243. Actually, if you keep pressing is equal to, you should be getting the answer, guys. Like 8,243, 1.0. The answer is 1,10,408. One lakh 12,616. 1,14,868. 1,17,166. 1,19,509. These are your lease payments every year. Now let's get the present value factors. 1 divided by 1.05. 0.952, 0.907, 0.863 or 864 actually, 0.823, 0.784, 0.746. Keep multiplying, you should get the answer. 0.711, 0.677, 0.645, 0.614. Now that you got the discount factors, find out the discounted cash flows to determine your lease liability. 1 lakh into 0.952, 95,200. 1,02,000 into 0.907, 92,504. 1,04,040 multiplied by 0.864, 89,891. Rounding it off even here. 1,06,121 into 0.784, 83,199. 1,08,243 multiplied by 0.784, 84,863. I'll continue with my calculation. Year 6, 1,10,408 multiplied by 0.746, 82,364. 1,12,616 multiplied by 0.711, 80,070. 1,14,868 multiplied by 0.677, 77,766. I'm rounding off again. 1,17,166 multiplied by 0.645, 75,572. 1,19,509 multiplied by 0.614, 73,379. That's it. For the GT, my answer is 83 lakh 48,000. Sorry, 8 lakh. 8 lakh 34,870. 1 rupee here and there is fine, but this is the value of my lease liability. Please check your numbers. Your numbers should be correct. Here and there, if you would have taken some other rounding off, your answer would have changed. But predominantly, your answer should remain the same. Predominantly, your answer should remain the same, guys. Shouldn't have a significant change. Guys, someone corrected me rightly. My answer is wrong because I'm really sorry, guys. I'm extremely sorry here. Because the first year, the discount factor should have been 1. The first year's discount factor should have been 1. My answer is absolutely wrong. And someone who corrected me, you're absolutely right, guys. My present value factor here should have been 1. First one, you will get 1 lakh. Please don't consider the last cash flow. Last cash flow should not be considered. Obviously, your lease liability is wrong. Please recalculate the amount once again. 1 lakh plus 95,200 plus 92,514 plus 89,891 plus 83,199 plus 84,863 plus 82,064 plus, sorry guys, 80,070 plus 77766 plus 75,572. The answer should have been 8,61,439. This is your answer. My bad, guys. I am really sorry. It is my mistake. I forgot that the amounts are paid at the beginning of year 1. Year 4 also there is a mistake. Huh? Let me just check. Year 4. 1,06,121 multiplied by 0.823. Yes. This is 87,338. Again, my mistake is 87,338. My computation mistake. Please make sure that you corrected it or you prepared it correctly. Then your answer is correct. 861439. Not correct. It is 865578. This is the answer. No, Teja. First year cash flow is 1 lakh. Second year cash flow should be 1,02,000. Oh, yeah. Yeah, then you are right. Absolutely. Guys, kindly solve it once again, guys. Kindly solve it once again. I don't want too many corrections in solving the answer. Please make sure that you're solving it once again. Please solve it once again, guys. I'm really sorry. It is my mistake. I will agree upon this. So please pardon my mistake and try to solve it once again. Please solve it once again, guys. It is my mistake. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Please solve it once again, guys. I can see your comments. I can see that there are a lot of changes in the computation. Please make sure that you start it once again. This is 1 lakh. I should have already written this as 1 and this as 1 lakh amount, so that we don't get confused. This is at the beginning of first year. Now let's do it. 1 lakh into 1.02, 2% increase every year. 1,02,000. Next year, 1,02,000 into 1.02. I think I can pick it up from above. I've already calculated this. 104040. 104040. Fourth year cash flow. 106121. 108243. 110408. 112616. 114868. Such a simple problem, we should not make mistake, guys. My bad. 117166. 10th year cash flow, let me calculate. 117166 into 1.02. This is 119509. Discount factors 5%. 1 rupee here and there is fine if there is a mistake, but it can't change completely. 0.952, 0.907, 0.864, 0.823, 0.786 or 783, 0.746, 0.711, 0.677, 0.645, 0.645, last one. Find out discounted cash flow. First one is 1 lakh, that is we already know. I think I've already have the answer of lease liability by everyone. I think I already have the lease liability for everyone. Guys, please wait for me. I'll also complete it. You people are much faster than me, I know. This is 97,104. 1,40,40 into 0.907. 94,364. 1,06,121 into 0.864. 91,689. 1,08,243 into 0.823. 89,084. 1,10,408 multiplied by 0.783. 86,449. 1,12,616 into 0.746. This is 84,011 or 012. 1,14,868 into 0.711. 81,671. 1,17,116 to 0.677. 79,321. 1,19,509 multiplied by 0.645. This is 77083. GT, give me an answer of 8,80,777 I am getting. Approximation of 1%, about 800 rupees is fine. About 1% of the approximation on 8,80,000 is about 880 rupees. Until there, the approximation is fine. You might have taken 4 decimals, you might have rounded up in a different way. My computation also can go wrong. We have already seen in the previous way that my computation has gone utterly wrong. I have been absolutely wrong in computation. Those who are trying to correct your answer or match your answers to mine, for you, I am displaying the answer. We have lost some time, but it's okay. We've lost some time in recalculating the lease liability, guys, but it's absolutely fine. Someone is commenting as 888. It's okay. 100 rupees here and there is absolutely fine. This is my measurement of lease liability, guys. So if there is no other adjustment, then my entry should have been written like this. If there is no other adjustment in computation of ROU asset, then I would have written the entry like this. ROU asset account debit to lease liability. Obviously, there are adjustments to ROU asset. I agree. But if I am assuming that there is no other adjustment, then I would have written the entry like this. Lease involvement prior to the commencement of lease, right? In the initial direct cost paid by the lessee, reduced by lease incentive, added by present value of dismantling. So all those are adjustment to ROU asset. If there is no adjustment, then I would have written the entry like this. ROU asset account debit to lease liability, 8,80,777. This, I would have written it at the beginning of year 1. Beginning of year 1. I have also made a lease payment. So at the beginning of year 1, I would have also written the entry as reducing my lease liability by the amount paid. Lease liability account debit to bank. How much did I pay at the beginning of the year? At the beginning of the year, I paid 1 lakh. It should reduce my lease liability since I've included that 1 lakh also in your lease payment. That's why I told you it is even suggested for you to ignore this 1 lakh and measure your lease liability, because on that day, your lease liability will only be 7,80,777. Clear? If I am writing the entry of lease liability for year 2, if I write the entry for year 2, then I'll write the entry like this. lease liability account debit, finance cost account debit, because every year your lease liability should have some finance cost which is recognized. What is the remaining amount of lease liability? My remaining amount of lease liability is 7,80,777, or actually 778, or I've written it as 777. Let us continue with that. Into 5% is the finance cost to bank. How much did I pay at the beginning of year 2? At the beginning of year 2, I paid 1,02,000. What is the amount of finance cost? Finance cost 7,80,777 into 5%. This will give me 39,039. Reduce it from 1,02,000. So the value of lease liability existing after this is 62,961. That is the amount of lease liability adjustment at the end of year 2 after you paid the amount of 1,02,000 at the beginning of year 2. Like this, if you keep continuing, at the end of year 10, you will find that the lease liability becomes round 0. Clear? This entry should repeat every year. Next year when I calculate the finance cost, it should not be based on 7,80,000. In year 3 when I talk about, then my finance cost in year 3, finance cost account debit. How will I calculate? 5% of 7,80,777 minus 62,961. The balance amount to lease liability should be reduced or debited to bank. What is the amount? 7,80,777 minus 62,961. It is 7,17,816 multiplied by 5%. The amount to be considered as finance cost is 35,891. What is the amount paid at the beginning of year 3? At the beginning of year 3, I paid 1,04,040 rupees. So what is the reduction of lease liability? 68,149 is a reduction of lease liability. Like this, you can keep continuing to solve each year. Each year you can continue to solve. Clear? If you want, you can write down the entries for year 2 and year 3. Don't continue until year 10. There is no necessary at all. Now let's quickly move into the measurement of ROU asset under question number 25. Entity Y and Z execute 12-year lease of a rally car for the following terms on 1st of January 2016. Lease commenced from February 1st, 2016. Entity Y must pay Entity Z the first monthly rental of 10,000 upon execution of lease. When was the lease executed? On 1st Jan 2016. So he is paying 10,000 before the commencement of lease, because the commencement of lease is only on 1st Feb. Entity Z will pay Entity Y 50,000 rupees as cash incentive to enter into the lease payable upon lease execution. So first lease rental of 10,000 is paid, but however, the lessee is also receiving a lease incentive of 50,000 rupees from lessor upon lease execution, that is in Jan 2016. Entity Y incurred. Entity Y is the person who is taking the asset on lease. Entity Y incurred 1000 rupee as initial direct cost, which are payable on 1st Feb. Entity Y calculated the initial lease liability as present value of lease payments, discounted using incremental borrowing rate because the interest rate implicit from lease cannot be determined. The initial measurement of lease liability is 8,50,000. For the lessee company, measure and record the lease. Guys, if you remember, when we were talking about ROU asset, how was the ROU asset being measured? Question number 25. Tell me the formula of measuring ROU asset. Tell me the formula of measuring ROU asset. ROU asset is equal to, always start with lease liability measured on the date of commencement of lease added with amount paid prior to commencement of lease. Before commencement of lease, how much did you pay? Reduced by the amount of lease incentives correct, added with the amount of initial direct cost which is paid by lessee. Last addition is regarding present value of estimated cost of dismantling. In this question, since it is a cost, there is no, since there is a car, there is no estimated cost of dismantling. Now, apply this formula in measurement under question number 25. Apply it. What is your value of lease liability? Check question and tell me. Lease liability measured on the date of commencement of lease, that is on 1st February 2016, is 85,000. Write down 85,000. Everything in rupee terms. Next, amount paid by the lessee prior to the commencement of lease. Upon entering into the lease execution on 1st January, he paid extra 10,000 rupees. Where did I get this from? Look back at the question. Entity Y must pay entity Z first monthly rental of 10,000 upon execution of lease. When was the lease executed? On 1st Jan. When is it commenced? On 1st Feb. So the first lease payment is made prior to the commencement of lease, which should be added to the value of the leased asset or the ROU asset. Should be reduced by lease incentive 50,000 rupees. Should be reduced by lease incentive, that is 50,000 rupees. Should be added with the amount of initial direct cost of lease. Go back to the question. What is the initial direct cost paid by the lessee? Entity Y, the lessee, incurred 1,000 rupees. Entity Y has incurred 1,000 rupees. Since it is a car, there is no estimated cost of dismantling, and this is the value of ROU asset. Calculate, guys. 85,000 plus 10,000 minus 50,000 plus 1,000. Eight lakh 50. I think it is 8 lakh 50, guys. Yeah, 8 lakh 50. Sorry, my bad. 10 I forgot. Eight lakh 50,000. Now you calculate. 8 lakh 50 plus 10,000 minus 50,000 plus 1,000 Should give you 8,11,000 as the answer. Should give you 8,11,000 as the answer. Please try writing the entry for this. Please try writing an entry for this. I will write, but I expect you people to try to derive the entry for this. If I have to record an entry for this particular problem, I'll go like this. ROU asset account debit. How much? 8,11,000. Bank account debit, because I am receiving an incentive. Bank is debited with the amount of lease incentives, which the lessee received from the lessor at the time of commencement of lease or prior to the commencement of lease, and it was 50,000. To ROU asset, or to lease liability, the amount which is already given, discounted using incremental borrowing rate, was 8,50,000. Doesn't end there. To bank, payment made by the lessee prior to the commencement of lease. Payment prior to commencement of lease, which was paid by the lessee to the lessor in January upon execution. Upon execution itself, he paid before the commencement of lease 10,000. At the end, one more entry to bank for initial direct cost paid by the lessee. Initial direct cost paid by the lessee. Amount is 1,000. Now the entry will perfectly tally. Now you can check that the entry will perfectly tally. You can combine the 10,000 and 11,000 because ultimately it is the same entry crediting the bank account. I just wrote it as two separate amounts so that you can indicate one is paid for commencement before the commencement of lease and other one is paid for initial direct cost. So I am presenting it separately, but if you want, you can combine it and you can show it as one single amount. So those are initial recognition in the books of lessee, measurement of lease liability, and also the measurement of ROU asset. Here we'll continue with solving the problems regarding measurement or recognition in the books of lessee. Subsequent measurement problems will also come up.